Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So as you can tell by the title, today we will be talking yet again about this storm system, this very large and expansive storm system that is bringing a whole wide variety of impacts, and this thing will continue for the next few days as it continues to intensify and bring its kind of full impacts into view. So it's definitely going to be a interesting storm to talk about. We've been talking about it for a while, and I will continue to make videos about this. I do want to note that there is potential kind of from indirectly but also directly from this system another storm to be spawning into early next week, so not that terribly far out. Today is Wednesday when I'm recording this. The second storm that I will talk about a bit later on in the video will be has a potential of occurring around Monday and Tuesday of next week. So, still a little bit away. It's going to be very similar in format, if you will, to this system, but it's potentially going to have a lot more snow and potentially affecting slightly different areas. But let's just start talking about this current system, and let me show you kind of the details about what to expect and, where this system already did impact. What areas it already impacted and what it left behind. So notice if you look at the Weather Ready Nation map, the same map I showed you guys yesterday that the National Weather Service puts out, different watches, advisories, warnings. What catches the eye right off the bat is this extremely expansive red flag warning that is ongoing across a good portion of the country. So this is basically usually issued when there are strong winds, relatively dry conditions present, and the risk for fire is strong, and that's what these red flag warnings indicate. So if you recall, 2 days ago I was saying how it's just, it was at that time I think the red flag warnings were just in Nebraska, and I was saying how this will probably be expanded as the winds from this system are going to be impressive, and especially on the western flank of this storm, it's going to be relatively dry, not much moisture, so that's kind of leads to a perfect scenario of a red flag warning setup. And you can see it's a pretty widespread setup. Normally, if it would rain across these areas, the risk wouldn't be really necessarily that high. Let's take a look at Lincoln. Hastings, but let's take a look at Nebraska. Let's take a gander at it and see what the red flag warning has, for you. And do note that this thing won't be terribly long lasting. It is until October 13th, 7 p.m., so until tomorrow, late in the afternoon and evening. So, that still is another additional day of this threat. But again, after that, the winds should let up. But notice, northwest winds 20 to 30 with gusts up to 45, both this and again Thursday afternoon. And relative humidity is very low, so any fires, any sparks that are left kind of unattended or just that are, let loose will be very easy for them to start a fire. Notice we also have flood watches across the Northeast beginning to show up. That's because a lot of the rain that could be coming from this system. And we do have some severe thunderstorm watches across the South, where we have along this cold front. Have a lot of nasty potentially weather. And notice we have high wind warnings elsewhere where there was rain. The fire danger isn't high, but there's still that wind threat, and you can see that those are all put up there. So let's start talking about this, but more into the model kind of aspect of this. And let me play this forward. So do note, this is what we are looking at right now. The National Weather Service has a radar that I kind of want to show you, and let me just zoom out and show you the national view of the radar. Let's see where I could do this. There we go, national radar. Notice you could really clearly see where this system's cold front is. It's pretty well defined at this point, a lot of showers. There is kind of a weak secondary front behind this. That is actually where the cold air is. This is just, the first line of the front, because right now I'm in Chicago and we're still out ahead of this second one, and it's relatively warm still. This one, you can see these little convective showers. That's where we have strong winds coming in from the north and west, and that's going to be bringing in also very cool temperatures. A lot of this tomorrow could be falling as snow across Minnesota and Wisconsin, so that's definitely something I want to note. And of course, this will continue intensifying as it chugs towards the north and east. So you can see that the GFS model right now that we have pulled up here is doing a relatively good job of portraying this system. And notice that as I put this into 1 a.m. today, what we do see is this kind of further echoing and bowing of this system, right? Notice this thing doesn't really move that much across the south, but it's quickly racing towards the north and east, kind of in this middle section here. And what that allows is a kind of a disconnect to form. Notice we have, again, that cold air. As I mentioned, a lot of this potentially tomorrow will be falling in the frozen precip for Minnesota, Wisconsin. To note, this cold front is taking a lot of moisture from the southern areas, which is the Atlantic Ocean and Gulf of Mexico, which are still very warm for, at this time of the year. They haven't cooled off yet, so any available moisture is being soaked up by this, and that's why it will lead to a pretty strong cold front for the Northeast. I think the European model shows this better, and I'll show you that in just a second, because I believe the GFS is a bit underestimating how powerful this cold front, or how rain-laden this system front will be. Notice the actual area of circulation is way up north here, producing actually decent and almost heavy snow. I mean, it is heavy snow across Manitoba and Western Ontario. That will stay secluded to those areas, the heavy snow, but we will, again, as I mentioned, see some flurries and showers across the northern plains tomorrow, and especially potentially into Thursday night and Friday. Notice there's that cold front. It becomes really, really slow moving as it pushes into the northeast, and models like the European really emphasize that slow movement, and I do believe that's more accurate, not only because the European has had a better handle on the system thus far, but also the National Weather Service seems to be going with it as well. You can see updating a lot of these areas with flash flood watches, and simply put, if it was just the GFS they were basing this off of I wouldn't say that's enough rain to cause flash flood concerns. Regardless, notice this system again is massive. I mean, it's snowing across the southern Canadian prairies. It's raining across the Atlantic coast. So that's almost that's more than 1,000 miles right there. Cool air stuck in between this cold front and actual circulation, and that is gonna just sit there for a while. And this is where we could start seeing, I'm just gonna start talking about this since I'm already pulled this up. This is where we could start seeing the second system develop. Yeah, it's not going to be pretty obvious. You're seeing it. Some systems you could see coming from a mile away with the setup. This one's going to be interesting. Notice how the cool air is still here. The cold front kind of dissipated, but we have a stalled out cold front, which kind of triggers showers and storms daily across the south. And what we do see is another impulse of energy that moves in. You could see producing showers, lake effect across the UP into Monday again of next week. This one quickly starts gaining power, and using the cool air that's already here and the kind of the orientation of this trough, it quickly kicks up a lot of this moisture from the south and east, and you could see that it brings again snow into areas like Erie, but potentially Detroit, maybe even Cleveland, a few grapple snow shower type activity. And look, it starts developing a massive plume of moisture across the northeast and puts it right back into that cold air. And that delivers potentially a rather significant snowstorm for Quebec and potentially the cities of Montreal, Ottawa, maybe seeing their first decent snowfall, and Quebec City, of course. So that's definitely something to note. And with that second system, there could be a lot of chilly air as well. Look at the 2-meter temperature shaded, widespread frost and freezes potentially for the mid-Atlantic area. As far as Virginia, maybe into North Carolina, the hilly areas. And easy way to show this is the anomalies. You can see that those are some pretty stark anomalies, so that's definitely something that's impressive. Let's take a look now at the European. As I've been saying, I believe it's a more accurate model, but I did want to show you the GFS just so you have a good comparison. Notice it shows it pretty well. You can see it kind of shows those little spotty showers, and if you were to look at the radar, as I showed you earlier, we did see those spotty kind of areas of little pop-up showers behind that secondary cold front. So this is what we are looking at currently. Again, we have that first one, we have that slightly second one, and we have these showers here. Tomorrow into the day, that cold front, both of them really continue. Both pieces continue racing into the northeast. Notice it really picks up a lot of steam, a lot of, in terms of the moisture, a lot of energy, though it does slow down eventually. Notice there's that area of circulation way up towards the north. So, if you were to draw this out, here's this low pressure, the main one. The second one does start forming here, and its respective cold front stretches something like that, a few thousand miles. So that's very impressive. And of course, it's chugging a lot of this cold air back into the United States, which will cause freezes, frost, and again some snow for the upper Midwest and areas like the UP, Northern Great Lakes. Notice as we put this into the day tomorrow, Boston, New York, all those cities across the Northeast, Philadelphia, we'll be seeing quite a bit of rain. Washington D.C. and of course elsewhere. pretty much up and all along the eastern seaboard. Notice this thing starts slowing down here significantly. By Friday night, the rain is intensifying, the cold front's still there. This low pressure is kind of breaking basically into itself, sagging out to the south again, bringing that cool air, those showers, those snow showers across Minnesota. You can see that's a decent area of the United States that could be lit up with some snow right there into early Friday morning. And notice this cold front Friday morning is still stuck across Maine, and it will kind of remain stuck there for a while. Notice throughout the day on Friday, it's still there. Throughout the day on into now eventually Saturday, it's still there. So notice the European definitely shows a lot more rain than the GFS. This front completely loses direction, and it just starts, I guess, being completely motionless. And after a while, it does peter out. You can see the showers become less intensive. And by then there will be quite a bit of rain that occurs. By the way, regarding that second system, the European does show that second impulse. Again, kind of a combination of the old low pressure. You can see it does kind of a loop around, and it does develop the system again. Very interesting. It will have a lot of showers, a lot of spotty lake effect zones, if you will, and again develops that cold front, which will be stretching for many miles again, and we'll have a pretty nasty snowy side. So very interesting system again, and we'll be pumping a lot of cool air back into the United States with that. And again, United States meaning these areas. Further west, it's going to be very warm, and after that, it looks as if the pattern will be shifting, and we could be looking more of an active western, more of an active Pacific Ocean kind of pattern, bringing a lot of moisture into the west, and a lot of warming up temperatures for the Great Lakes and Northeast relative to where they will be for the next kind of week and a half. So regarding the European and its total accumulated rainfall, obviously there will be a lot of areas that will see rain, right? You can see right there that will be mainly snow, but even right there, Michigan, the UP, the South, especially with that stalled out cold front, England or New England right here. Sorry, the Northeast, and especially New England right here into Maine and Vermont, will be seeing those very heavy amounts. I don't think there will be necessarily 9 inches, though. Again, the European is usually one of those models that's more conservative with its amount, so if it's showing 9 inches, I wouldn't exclude that. But that just goes to show you that there will be a very heavy area of rain, and they need the rain here to dry, but 9 inches, quite frankly, is just probably a bit too much. Thankfully, it won't be falling all at once. It will be spread out over 1 to 2 days. So even if 9 inches does fall, it shouldn't be too terrible. There definitely will be issues though that form. And yeah, let's take a look at some of this total snowfall accumulations. Assuming a 10-to-1 ratio. Again, the most significant heavy snow will be across the Manitoba area. You can see pretty significant snow. But again, those showers, those spotty snow showers, especially near the lake where the lake enhancement occurs, could be bringing a dusting to maybe even a coating of an inch or two across the Great Lakes, especially the northern Great Lakes. And with that secondary system into next week, there could be a lot more snow into Quebec and enhanced lake effect as that second system pumps in a lot of cool air into the United States. So that is that. Regarding the GFS, I want to show you, I already showed you the GFS, I just didn't show you its total accumulated precipitation. Let me just show you that now, just so you have a good comparison as to what the European is showing. And notice the GFS, let's go back to the most recent model one. It does show heavy rain across the Northeast. It's just not quite as heavy, right? There could be some pockets of maybe 2, 3, but I do believe the European has a better handle of this, and that's why I think the National Weather Service also agrees with that, as that's why they have those flash flood watches, because quite frankly, that's really not enough rain to cause concerns for flooding, 1.5 inches. Let's go back now, and let me show you the total snowfall. As compared to what the European showed. Again, you can see it's pretty consistent with the European, showing pretty good snow across Manitoba and whatnot. Shows a bit more snow into northern Minnesota than what the European shows. You can see some areas even picking up 3 to 4 inches. That seems a bit of an extension, especially since a lot of that snow when it initially falls really won't be accumulating, as it is the first snow this season there. So the ground's still very warm, and the days before it was still in the 80s up here. So yeah, I don't think that will be as significant there. But notice by the lakes, I do believe the UP could be picking up their first, several inches of snow, northern Michigan as well. And if that second system were to occur, which the GFS shows a lot more snow with it, Quebec, a lot of these Canadian cities would be seeing their first showers and snows. And even the cities like Pittsburgh may be getting caught by some of those lake effect bands coming off Lake Erie. So that is that. But notice later on we do see an explosion of western activity and some of these mountains picking up their snowfall, so we'll have to monitor that. But that is the modeling that I kind of wanted to show you. Let me show you some of this previous rainfall that has occurred over the past several hours, several days. Notice you could clearly tell where this cold front was and where it was kind of targeting the most areas. My area picked up a decent amount, 1 to 2 inches. Michigan here got up to 2-3 inches. And there were pockets obviously where there was quite a bit less, but there's also pockets where there was a bit more. I want to also mention that, look, across the south where some of these storms have been occurring, there have been also some pretty incredible rainfall amounts, 5 to 6 inches in some of these areas, so that's definitely impressive. But again, those are more localized areas. But I'm a bit concerned about the Northeast, honestly, because we were forecasted to get anywhere from kind of a ½ inch to 1.5 inches, and it was towards the higher amounts. It was 1.5 inches and up across many areas. So I have a feeling some of the Northeast here might be struggling with some flooding into this upcoming weekend. That's why I do believe they have those flash flood watches issued. Those areas will probably be targeted the most, but even cities like Boston could be picking up heavy rain, and the National Weather Service is warning about this, as I feel like even these amounts may be a bit little. Again, it is dry, so a lot of these locations will take that rain. They are in droughts. That is definitely good for those areas. Let me show you the HER model. This is the model that goes out to 48 hours. It is very short range, so it's usually precise, but it just doesn't go out far enough. And I want to show you this model because, well, the system is not that far out, right? But again, I guess the worst is still ahead of it. And notice this cold front throughout the night today will be developing and spreading into the eastern United States. Notice there could be some nasty clusters of storms, showers across the south. Again, some small hail, some damaging wind is definitely possible. And some of those areas have already seen quite a significant amount of rain, so that's not going to necessarily help things out. Do note, as this spreads into the wee morning hours and into the daytime tomorrow, this cold front starts slowing down, becomes more kind of south to north oriented. We start seeing a lot of this backwash kind of snow spreading into Minnesota, Wisconsin throughout the day, so that's going to be interesting to note. And notice that's where we see a lot of this rain occurring here. Pretty heavy amounts. This is late tomorrow, 10 p.m., 11 now midnight, and that continues. Notice we have some lake effect potentially developing off Michigan, and interestingly enough, look how significant some of the snow banding is here. That is definitely something that is it caught me off guard because a HER model usually is pretty realistic with what it shows. And that would definitely be an impressive. You could see even kind of getting close to the Twin Cities with some light snow. Again, it doesn't make it too far to the south, and these amounts will be relatively light, but that could definitely leave a coating to even 1 inch in some areas. And notice that this northeast front, while it may start seeing or looking as if it's falling apart, it starts stalling out here, and you can see doing something similar to what the European was showing. If you were to play this next 48 hours, you could probably, 24 out of those 48 hours, the cold front would be pretty much unmoved from where that is in that last frame there. So total accumulated precipitation, you can see obviously targeting the northeast. Again, I don't think it shows nearly even a third of what could be happening across the northeast, as this only takes us out to midday kind of Friday. And that snowfall, let's take a look at that because that is definitely interesting. And if you're to take a look at the north central United States, some of these amounts, I wouldn't be surprised if there is some 1 to 2 inch reports. Those high bands you could see of 5, 6. That's probably not going to happen. Maybe if there is some lake enhancement across some of these areas. And you can see on Michigan also some snow, mainly in a form probably of grapple or just these quick hitting showers. I don't know how efficiently they will be accumulating, as these temperatures that will be falling in won't really be supportive of grand accumulations. You can see that the temperatures don't even really dip below freezing across some of these areas. Further up north, yes. So yeah, that's basically it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.